Next, we're going to have Mr. James Holmes, who will be providing some information on the state indemnification program. Now, let James come and tell you about that program.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and I appreciate you being here, especially allowing me to present this program to you. This program means a lot to me. That being said, I'll keep it short and sweet and we'll get started and hopefully have some questions afterward that I can help folks out with. The indemnification program was set up in 1976 by the Georgia legislature. It was established to provide compensation for certain public officials who are permanently disabled or killed in the line of duty. Now, through this time frame, a lot of the laws have changed, and there's been different stances on the O.C.G.A. statutes that govern the program. Effective July 1st, 2001, the program was expanded to include supplemental pay. I'll elaborate on supplemental pay here shortly. July 1st, 2008, the benefit expanded again to include partial permanent disability. What does the indemnification cover itself? It covers partial permanent disability, and death. The supplemental program pays benefits and only applies to law enforcement and firefighters. The supplemental pay is subordinate to workers' compensation, and that means workers' compensation from other public agencies. The eligible recipients can receive the amount that equals to his or her monthly gross salary minus deductions for the state income and tax withholdings and FICA tax withholdings, which was in effect prior to the date law enforcement officer or firefighter was injured in the line of duty. These benefits are paid monthly for a maximum of 12 months. They will not exceed 12 months. Supplemental pay varies by the wages earned at the time of the application. DOAS will require copies of the workers' compensation records, evidence of the disabilities, and other records that are associated with such sources of compensation. How much is the indemnification benefit? The current death benefit is $100,000. The current total permanent disability benefit is $75,000. The current partial permanent disability, is $35,000. Now, you can take these in lump sums. When you take these in lump sums, they're reduced by 6% per annum, which is a dramatic decrease in the overall amount. We do pay these also in monthly installments. Each of those benefits, you can get those for the complete 5 years or 60 months, and you're getting the full amount, the $100,000, the $75,000, or the $35,000. I tend to recommend the payments for people because it can go direct deposit, you can receive paper checks, and they're not tempted to have that lump sum to blow or just get rid of immediately because it can help in serious financial crises. The indemnification benefits are not taxable under the state law, and they're made to the disabled person in the case of death, or the current spouse, or their dependents. Who's eligible to receive these benefits? This is very important. Law enforcement officers, corrections, jail, and prison officers, probation and parole officers, as long as they're post-certified. Firefighters, volunteer firefighters, and Georgia Forestry are also eligible. It's important to note that EMS and EMTs are eligible, however, they must be publicly employed. They cannot be employed by private entities. Emergency Management Rescue Specialists, the State Highway DOT employees, the HERO units, they're eligible, and members of the Georgia National Guard when they're called into active state service by the governor. There's a lot of criteria that are involved with the application process, and it's not just a benefit that anybody is absolutely entitled to. It's not an insurance policy. There is an application process. The application must be completed and sent to the indemnification program officer, which will be me. I'm your point of contact. I'm the only person involved in the indemnification process and the investigations. We will require other documentation to be provided during the application and investigation process, and sometimes this can be lengthy. Applications for indemnification must be submitted within 24 months from the date on which the partial permanent disability, or the death occurred. An application related to the death of a part-time officer must be filed within 12 months after the officer's death. In the case of permanent disability, the eligible recipient must file the application. If the injured person is considered mentally incompetent, a parent, a spouse, or other legally authorized individual may file the application on their behalf. The law enforcement officer or firefighter must submit the supplemental pay application within 60 days from the date of the original incident that resulted in their disability. So see, there's a big difference here in the supplemental program and the indemnification program, and they all have to be kept in mind with what you're applying for. This is very important to note. All documentation with regard to estates, dependents, current spousal beneficiary, this means proof. This includes incident reports, accident reports, supervisor's reports, medical examiner's reports. In essence, anything that's going to be related to the incidents for what the application is being submitted for. We understand that some of these items are going to take time. There's usually departmental investigations. There's usually your O.C.G.A investigations, whatever it's going to be, the process. We have no problem waiting for your investigation to complete itself before we complete ours. The commission or the program officer do not maintain beneficiary information. Tax records are required as a part of this investigation because it helps us determine who the current spouses are and who the current dependents are at the time. They must show the dependent status of minor children in the tax records, and it must be the most recent filed tax return. The surviving current spouse must attach a copy of the marriage certificate to the application. Former spouses are not eligible to receive these benefits or apply for these benefits unless there is a dependent that can be shown on the tax records of the decedent that shows they were, in fact, a dependent. I've included some statutes here. While they're not all here, I've given you access to go through and research these yourself. The O.C.G.A statutes begin at 45-9-81 and subsequently go through 45-9-90. While some of those code sections in the middle there may be blank, that's because they were repealed over the years. But these will give you very thorough information with regard to the statutes that govern this program. And it should be known that we adhere to these statutes strictly. There are criteria set forth in the laws that define why, when, and whom may or may not be awarded the benefits. The supplemental O.C.G.A statutes that apply are 45-9 through 100 through 45-9-105. The statutes that govern this program are adhered to strictly as well, and there are criteria set forth in the laws that define exactly why, when, and whom may or may not be awarded these benefits. How and where to find the application? You can go to www.doas.ga.gov. I've given you instructions here. You can click on the risk and insurance in the lower left under the state and local tab. Under Explore Risk Management, click on the Additional Programs and Resources tab. You'll find a link to the application for benefits and our contact information. I always advise everyone to contact me first. That way I know the application's coming and I know who I'm speaking with. Who to contact when you're sending applications. You'll be contacting me. My contact information is listed below, and the current address where these applications need to be sent to is listed as well. The contact number here is 404-657-4437. That's my direct line. Again, I'll be your only point of contact for this program. I'll be the one you deal with specifically with any questions, any incidents, any applications that are submitted. Anytime you have any questions, you feel free to give me a call. I don't have a problem whatsoever helping anyone and directing them where they need to go for the program. I believe that would take care of that, ma'am.
Okay, is there any questions? I have a question. Is the program actually funded by some of those add-on funds that from...
No, we're not funded by any enforcement activity. The General Assembly meets and they have specifically set a code section aside that's in those code section I provided that will explain how the monies are set aside.
Okay.
They appropriate funds and there's no lapse in the funds whatsoever. Those funds are all appropriated for specific purpose for this program. None are collected as fines or measures of any law enforcement activities.
Okay. Can the city initiate the application process, or does it have to be the family?
The city can initiate the application process and assist the family. We understand that the times can be tough and there's a lot of emotions going through there. However, we really encourage the families to be involved in the applications, since there's going to be a lot of contact made with the families where we'll be requesting documents. Again, we know it can be hard, but we want to maintain as much exposure to the families as possible, because that's who we'll be dealing with.
Right. We do have a question. If a person gets military benefits, will that prevent them from applying for these funds?
The only way that would prevent them is if they were not in the National Guard and they were not called into service by the governor. There's specific criteria for that as well. The National Guard are covered, Georgia National Guard, but they have to be called into service by the governor for law enforcement purposes. To use a bad example, the snowstorms we had, when the National Guard were called into service, if any of them had been injured, they would have been eligible to apply for the program and its benefits.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's been very informative. Do we have any more questions?
We do have a teacher's indemnification program. While the information is not present today, it is very different, and I would encourage anyone to contact me for information on that program as well.
Okay, thank you.